Welcome you class to Youth Ministry 302 online. This is week 4, and this guy is Sean McKay. Sean is our youth minister here at Midway, and I wanted to share him with you all this week. Sean is actually the longest tenured youth minister here at our church in history. Been here over four years now.
A little bit over 4 years.
4 years, and he's got a great gift to work with students, and it's a pleasure to share this class with him. This is actually a good course to have, Sean, to be a part of this course or this class. We're talking about powerfully communicating the truth today, and Sean's in and out of their lives every week, and he has the most opportunity to share Christ with our students, and so I thought that he'd be a great fit for the lesson today. I'm just going to ask at the beginning of our lesson is what changes a student's life. There's a lot of things that won't change a student's life. A worship band, most likely not going to change a student's life. Does make for a great time of worship and intimate times with Jesus, but if we're talking about life change forever, that won't be the case. A great environment for worship, it will help in the process, but a neat room, a good setup. You know it, Sean. We've had some good setups. But it doesn't change a student's life. How about a camp experience where they're with their friends? They're in a great environment for worship.
They don't go to bed. Yeah.
Will that change a student's life?
Absolutely not.
The week as it goes may change their life, but there's a reason that life change happens, and that reason is the Word of God. So the answer to that question, what will change a student's life, you'd better get this right too when we do our midterm and our final. The Word of God will change a student's life. I want to call your attention to Romans 10:14. Paul asks a series of questions, and they still ring true today. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? In other words, how will they hear without a preacher? You are the preacher, the teacher of the Word of God for these students on a weekly basis. And so if you do anything, you must teach the Word. You must preach the Word. Communicating truth to these students will be the priority. It should be the priority. So I'm going to ask Sean a question. Why should preaching the Word to your students be the priority above everything else you do?
Well, the preaching of the gospel is what changes the student's life forever. It's not the preacher, it's the message that comes to the student. You're not a recreation director, and you're not all about fun and games. If you base your whole ministry off of that, you're not going to get to the meat and potatoes and the real thing that can change a student's life forever. They got fun and games out there in the world, guys. Yeah. Okay, they can go out there and play games all day long, play video games, and do all that. Okay, they come to church for something different. And the thing that we have that the world does not is Jesus Christ, and it needs to be presented in a clear, simple way so that these students that do not have a relationship with Jesus can come to know Jesus, and those students that do have a relationship can come to a better knowledge of their relationship, know what their relationship's all about, and live it out on a daily basis.
And Sean's actually seeing he's seeing fruit of that now, probably more so than you've ever seen it. The students understand, yes, there will be times where we'll have a good time, and there will be times where we'll get to go and play and have fun, but there is a time to be serious, and there is a time to hear from God. And now I'm seeing that students show up far more for the teaching of the Word than they have been in the past.
And they show up early.
They do come early. That's not because you feed them, is it?
If you feed them, they will come. I'm telling you right now, it works every time.
Yeah, the food will change their attitude. The Word will change their heart.
Amen.
What we're going to start with today are some misconceptions about students in Scripture, and I'm going to give you a handful to think about. Sean's going to maybe add in a few too. I'm going to let him put his thoughts to some of these as well. The first misconception that we've got to dispel, we've got to do away with it, is the misconception that students are not interested in the truth. I'll start with this, okay? They've shown up. So if they weren't interested, they wouldn't be there. I don't care what you may say. Like, if they're driving themselves to church and they're coming every week, there's a reason for it. And I think a lot of it is because they do want to hear. Knowing the kids that we have at Midway, um, I believe that to be true.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's too many false motives as to why they would come on a Wednesday night or Sunday night to hear the word of God, or Sunday morning to be. There's a reason, and I think it's because they're interested. How about this one? Students cannot grasp truth. That's a big misconception. So, Sean, take it away there. Can they grasp truth?
Absolutely, they can grasp truth. You know, truth found in the Word of God. There's a big misconception right now in youth ministry that kids, they don't understand the Bible and they don't want to understand the Bible. Actually, they do. It's just they want it to be presented to them, which is our job. Of course, we also know that's in the home. We only get them for 4 hours a week. Not very long at all to present the Bible to them. A lot of this is going to have to take place in the home, where part of youth ministry is working with parents. You think it's always working with students, but you're also working with parents to help a Bible study in the home. But they do want the truth of the Word of God, but hey, they're sitting there with this huge book. They don't know where to start, okay? There's words in there they don't understand. Just need to kind of guide them through that process. They do want to understand that truth.
Yeah, last Wednesday night, Sean gives a great example. They were in Bible study. They're doing a series on spiritual gifts, which I'm excited about that because it moves beyond just. And don't hear me wrong, he's moving them beyond the basic truths of the gospel, and he's feeding them feeding them some meat.
Right.
He's trying to get them off of the milk and get them to the meat. So he had a student that asked just a simple,
what is theology?
What is theology?
Yeah.
A student asked that. Can they grasp that truth? That's theology is the study of the Lord.
Right. We were talking about the gift of knowledge, and the week before we talked about the gift of wisdom. Very, very deep. Diving into the Word of God and trying to get these students to think outside the box, because you know, as students, you want it right now. Okay, yeah. You don't want to wait for anything. If you get a gift, you want it to be like Christmas or your birthday. You want to open it right then and get it right now. Well, these students, maybe God is going to bestow one of these gifts upon them, but He's working on them right now and getting them prepared for when He's going to bestow it on them, and He's giving them little snippets of it right now. And that's what I'm trying to get them to grasp. So doing that and going through this sermon series, I'm really seeing my students say, I don't know if I've got that gift or not, but I believe the way Pastor Sean is illustrating it, that God may be leaning me toward this type of gift in my life.
That's good. I've got a 6-year-old, and he's not saved. It's something that I pray for every night. I believe Sean does the same for his kids too. I pray that God would save him early in life. And that's the desire of my heart. I know that I'm not in charge of his salvation, but we study the Bible now. We got Micah his first ever real Bible. We've always had the cool picture Bibles, which I enjoy. I enjoy the picture Bible, but we got him a legitimate New King James version. Sean's King James guy, but I got New King James Bible, and we've been reading through the Gospel of John. I'll tell you what they can grasp. I read the other night. It was John chapter 10, and it's about Jesus being the shepherd, the good shepherd, and he says, "My Father will not allow one of his sheep to be scattered out of, or snatched out of his hand." And I shared that point, and Micah the next day, Micah, when I read to him, I purposely read the Bible to him later in the evening so that he gets sleepy. It's the last thing that he hears. It's a good tool for several things.
I couldn't think of a better thing to go to bed on than a good Bible story.
well, most of the time I read him to sleep. But John 10, I remember reading that you can't be snatched out of the Father's hand. The next day, he has. They do these little bead creations where you take the iron,
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you put little beads in a design, and then you take the iron, and it makes a ornament or a magnet or whatever. Well, he had one of those little beads, and he looks in his hand and he says, "That's how big I am compared to God, isn't it?"
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, that was a good God moment. Like, I was like, you're right. We are small compared to how big the Lord is. But my wife went further to say, but you know what? As long as we're in His hand, we can't be taken away from God. And she went on to share Christ with them again. My son Micah's 6. I have a 3-year-old that that understands the basic. And I have to be careful. I don't like saying the word story. I'm not into that. But Mally is hearing basic Bible passages or accounts, and he's starting to grasp that I have a Creator in God. Jesus loves me. Those things. So if a student can understand that Christ loves them, that they have a sin problem, they're in need of a Savior, there's nothing deeper, okay, than the gospel. Nothing deeper. I'm just saying that students can grasp truth. Don't be afraid to take them into uncharted territory. Don't be afraid to challenge them. You have to discern on how you bring that to them. I mean, like, you can't be, don't be boring and you know, and don't pull out the book of Leviticus on a regular basis as you're, you know, but I am saying strive for deep truth, like the spiritual gifts discussion. Sean's reading Experiencing God right now. It doesn't get deeper than Blackaby. That's a classic. So, and he covers the word. John 15:5. I'm the vine, you're the branches. That's deep truth. All right. How about this one? Another misconception. Students don't desire to be impacted or make an impact. Do you think now this is just something for you all to think of? Do you really think that a student wakes up on Monday morning and says, "Today, I'm going to ruin my life"? Do you really think that they want to get into some of the trouble that they get into? I know that some of you may disagree and say, "Oh, well, you don't know my kids." Well, I'm just saying I don't believe for a thing that a student wakes up today and says, "Today, I'm going to kill somebody. Today, I'm going to do something that could alter my life forever." I was just in a jail last Thursday with a 24-year-old guy, and unfortunately, he's made a big mistake. But he told me after this, he's like, if I could do it over again, I would have never went back to that house. You know, like, that's what I'm saying. I don't think students, especially our kids, I don't think they wake up wanting to ruin their lives. And to say they don't want to make an impact, I don't think that's the truth. Sean and I coach a little league basketball team, and we have six really good kids on this team. Not all of them know Christ. We use it as a tool to share Jesus. But every game, I think every one of them wants to make a big shot.
Absolutely.
They want to make an impact. And you need to relate that to the youth group in church too. I think when they're there and they have a chance to hear the word, they want to do something that could change the world. Think about all the young people that God used in the scripture. Okay. Jeremiah's days were laid out before him. One of his excuses was, "I can't do this. I'm a youth." Paul tried to encourage Timothy to not look at his age. The disciples, you need to do some background research on the disciples' ages. They would have been very young men, younger than Jesus, I think. Could have been, some research says that they may have even been in their late teens when they were first called or in the ministry. So what I'm saying is that God uses young people all the time, and they want to make an impact. Here's the biggest misconception to me of them all. Students are tired of hearing the truth. Is that true?
Absolutely not. Actually, it's polar opposite. Students are hungry for the truth because guess what? They're finding out in their life that this world is nothing but a bunch of lies. And they're wanting to know what truth is. Okay? And sometimes they try to find truth in an individual. Sometimes they try to find truth in an activity, anything in this world. They're trying to find it, and they're not finding truth in that. So you get the awesome opportunity to open up a perfect, infallible, 100% true, pure Word of God and present the gospel of that Bible to them in a simple manner that's truth, and they can always grasp onto that, and they can use that in their life to say, hey, this is coming at me right now. I want to see if I should do this or not. Is this truth or is this a lie? And they can look at God's word and they can find what God says about
I don't think they're tired of hearing it.
it.
They may be tired of hearing you or me, but I don't believe that students are tired of hearing God's word, especially if they're believers in Christ.
They quit coming to church.
Yeah.
I mean, I see so many youth pastors that their youth groups are thriving right now, and they're getting these astronomical numbers, and these kids are coming and they're absolutely diving fully in. They're inviting their friends to come. I mean, these kids, they're hungry for the truth, and you may not think it, but they do listen.
They do.
Okay, they do.
They do. We've hosted some youth revivals where we, not being obedient, we kind of cut it short, knowing that the week should have went further. Why? Because the students were coming and they were wanting it. Sean just had one last. It was right before
in
the fall, and every night the word was fresh. Every night, and our students were there every night, and I think they probably would have come Thursday night or Friday night.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because they were hungry for it. We see it at camp all the time, and that's the great thing about youth camps is they do whet your appetite for the word, and they want to be there. So again, another misconception is I don't think they're tired of hearing it. I don't believe that either. All right, how about this? You can always hit the pause button if you're tired of hearing it, but we're going to keep going because I want Sean to share some of these things. I want to talk about methods of communicating the truth. There really are only two. We can summarize it in two ways. There's two ways that you need to know. You need to know the definitions because you need to be able to explain them. Expository preaching and then topical preaching. The best way to know expository would be it's verse by verse. At Fruitland, if you've been through homiletics and hermeneutics, it's all about the study of the word. Your professors there, Dr. Horton, Dr. Whitfield, they are going to challenge you to take a text and get all of the truth out of it that you can. I remember the late, great Dr. Kenneth Ridings, when I was a student at Fruitland, he would have this saying. He would say, don't finish with the text until the text is finished with you. So he encouraged that you milk the word. I mean, like you get as much out of it as you possibly can. That's expository preaching. When it's verse by verse, you're keeping it in context with that story. You might use a cross reference or two. However, the goal is to stay in line with that account, with that story. To me, expository preaching is the best way to cover the whole counsel. But I also realized that when you're working with students, though, there's something called topical preaching too. So there's two ways to preach the word. Both are good ways. I don't want you to feel like that one's greater than the other. You're gonna have your mindset on which is better, and that's fine. You'll get a chance to talk about that in your discussions. But topical is the other. Topical is when you pick a Bible topic or passage, and you are wanting to cover that topic with the Word of God. I don't know of one better, topically speaking to students, than Sean. And I've been hearing youth preachers 20 years, like since I was a kid. And I'm serious. He has a gift of taking a text or a thought and runs away with it. And one of his strongest points is Sean is able to communicate by an object or with a topic, and he can. I can't do what he does. Sean is able to expose the meaning of that topic with the word, and he doesn't waver. So, just want to talk now about a few points in communicating these two truths. When you start to communicate the word, this is the third section, messengers of the truth. You have to make some commitments. Okay, whether you choose to do it topically or expositionally, you have to make these commitments. The first one is this: we must commit to getting close to the students. Take it away.
Absolutely. With getting close to the students, of course, I try to bring out, when I preach on different topics, I'm a big object lesson guy. I would say 80% of my sermons are object lessons, and I try to pick objects that students are constantly engaging with. It's something that they can relate to, and it's something that they're going to be like, wow, I never saw that in that. The students, sadly, in youth ministry, we look for that wow factor with our messages. It's kind of like everybody builds up to this one thing, and it's like, whoosh, here comes the great spiritual aspect of everything. But students will really grasp into and just hone in on that object. I've seen students stare at what I'm holding more than they stare at me. I mean, it's like they're sitting there and they're just really, really engrossed in that. And so I encourage you, get on your students' level. If God has given you a message on a topic and you've got this great object lesson, run with it, because God wouldn't place it on your heart unless it was going to be effective to the students that you're going to be ministering to.
Jesus did it throughout his ministry. If you read John 1:14, it says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us." No, I don't want to take it out of context, but that's probably the greatest object lesson that you could ever have. God became us. Mm-hmm. That's an object lesson. I believe that when Jesus taught, to teach as long as he did, and to have people around him like he did, he had to have been engaging. Actually, the Bible says that people are astounded by the way that he taught. He spoke as one with authority. He wowed his parents as a kid. I mean, there's all kinds of things about him in the Beatitudes, you read, or not the Beatitudes, but Sermon on the Mount. Read that. You have to use objects to teach the Sermon on the Mount. When he talked, the eye is the lamp of the body, man. Or the sawdust, speck of sawdust, and the plank. Mm-hmm. Some of the best sermons I've heard on that are people who carry a plank and a speck of sawdust. It engages the person. So commit to getting close to the students. And just to take that a little bit further, when he says get down on their level, he's meaning talk to them in a way that's not like you're up here and they're down here. Talk to them as they're talked to.
Be transparent.
Right.
Let them know that, hey, you're not perfect either, and you struggle too. It's real life stories of things that happen in your life are great for students, because sadly they put preachers up on this really, really high pedestal, and we shouldn't be because we're just like them. We're all human. And so get down there and show them, hey, guess what? I failed maybe when I was your age or today, even in my older age. And guess what? God's showing me this even through this sermon, because God has to preach to us too. God preaches to us and he gives us the message. And in our private study time, God deals with us, and then God prepares us to preach to the students. So the message is being preached to both.
Right. Another commitment that we need to make, we must commit to experiment on how our voices are heard. This, listen, I've experimented quite a bit throughout, and I know Sean has too, but I'll just give you some of the examples, okay? Here's a few that I've written down. We have used props. We have dressed up. We have played games to communicate our truth. We have went on scavenger hunts. He's used Disney movies. He's making a series, I think. Right. He's making a Disney movie series. So what I'm saying is, experiment. We love VBS time because Sean and I, we're always the characters that act out the daily point. And you know what? We've been able to win some children to cry with Christ with our goofy plays, and but I'm saying experiment how you communicate the truth. And if you're a pastor and you're taking this class, your adults like it too.
Absolutely.
They're not too high and holy to not like object lessons and creativity. They enjoy it too. Sometimes we're in a media driven world. A great video illustration or movie clip. I'm just saying there's so many avenues to teach the message, methods to teach the message. You don't have to be cut and dry, stand at a podium and read your sermon notes to them to get their attention. You don't, and if that's what you do, I'm not knocking you because I use notes too. Sean,
we all do.
Yeah, so it's not that, but remember, you're working with kids. I mean, we're talking about our kids ministry. How do children learn? Oh, you can't keep them seated for 25 minutes.
Get to the point.
Yeah, and be fun about it. Have a good time with it. Make the Bible fun. That's what I would encourage you to do. Creativity. And then this next one, we've got to commit to practice what we preach.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Some of the hardest lessons learned are when you're trying to preach on a subject that you know you struggle with, and right before you preach the message, you fall, or you make that mistake that you're trying to teach your people to not do, or how you're supposed to live. You have to commit to practice what you preach. And so my question for that is, how do you live? Your testimony and your integrity are going to be far, far greater than the message that you preach. I'd have a hard time listening to Sean, or Sean would have a hard time listening to me, if he's not a man of integrity, and I know that he's blown it in the world, and he sets an example that isn't godly. I'm not going to trust him with students. It's the same thing with you two, and I always go back to this. You can't have an effective witness with your kids. Like, if they see you living like the world, or satisfying your flesh, gosh, even if they see you lose your temper too many times. I mean, there's so many things that go there. Once they see it, you lose credibility. And we've learned that the hard way a few times, haven't we?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I'm telling you, there ain't nobody as hot-tempered and as, when it comes to sports and things and games and things, I want to win. I don't like losing. And it took me some time there early on in my ministry to figure out that, you know what? You're really not looking like Jesus right now. You're really looking like this fleshly Sean McKeag that is not these kids' pastor. And so it's really, really important to definitely live it every single day. And, I heard an old preacher say it years ago, and it still rings true today. Sometimes you're the only Bible people ever read. And so when you put that call upon your life, you're called to minister, whatever aspect. I know some of y'all taking this class, you're not going to be in youth ministry. Whatever branch of ministry that you're in, you have to live it no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, you want to be worthy of your calling. And this last thing to think about, actually I got several more, sorry, I lied to you. We must commit to be passionate about what we preach. How do you preach? How do you teach? One thing that I do on campus, which is another plug-in for Fruitland Campus, I'm able to do this with these students. I will pick an object or two in the room, and the students can choose their object. They might choose a shoe, they might choose a bottle of Gatorade, they might choose a computer, but I give them a minute as a group to sell the item. Okay, so I'm wanting to see them get passionate about a light bulb. I'm wanting to see them get passionate about I don't know, a popsicle, or I think I've even seen a moon pie before. Like, you want them to get excited about it. And my point is this: you can get excited about baseball or the newest movie.
We'll be excited tonight.
Yeah, we're going to Clemson, Carolina. Go Heels.
Yeah. We'll yell. We'll yell at the ball game. We'll get excited. Hey, we'll even show up 2 hours early.
I'm going to
watch them warm up.
I'm going to wear a T-shirt that draws attention
right
to my team. And the point is, and I know you've heard it, but the point is, we can get excited about anything. Mm-hmm. And my whole thing is, if you're going to teach students, or you're going to be in front of a congregation, you had better have energy. One of the biggest mistakes that you could make, and I'm so glad that Sean does not operate in this manner, like, because it kills me to see guys do it. I know that you want a big group. I know that. Some nights you have over 20 students. Okay. Some nights, though, he doesn't have 20 students. Some nights he doesn't have 10 students.
Right.
But how you have to choose to give them the word. Mm-hmm. So I have to be prepared if I'm going to have 10 kids or if I'm going to have 100 kids. Am I going to teach those 10 the same way that I would teach that 100? Am I going to be as passionate about my subject content as if the wind was taken out of our sails? You know what I mean? I know that the flesh kicks in and you get aggravated because most of the time you don't hear that students are coming. Most of the time you hear that who isn't coming, and you worry and you're trying to worry about who's not there instead of worrying about who is. And I want you to be passionate about what you preach. Same thing with your subject content. God put a passage on your heart. Study the text and get the most you can out of the text and be excited about it. If you're not, they're not going to be either. And you'll be able to tell about 5 minutes into the message whether or not they're excited about what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
How about this one? Commit to be yourself. Now, everybody do this right now. You have a person on your mind that is your favorite preacher. Maybe you have multiple people that are your favorite preachers. Go ahead, Sean. Tell them who your favorite preachers are.
Mine's C.T. Townsend. I love Dr. Joe Arthur, Dr. Phil Kidd, Brother Barry Spears. Those are just some of my favorites.
Why are they your favorites? What do they do that you emulate?
They're that past topic, being passionate. They're very, very passionate about the gospel. C.T. Townsend will get in the spirit. His glasses may go flying. He may shed a coat. He may run a lap around the building. Dr. Joe Arthur, he's the epitome of what loving on people looks like to me. He preaches with so much passion, but he preaches on hell with a tear in his eye. He's not hellfire and brimstone. He's loving on people even when he's telling them, if you die without Jesus, you're going to die and go to hell. Dr. Phil Kidd, I love his stand for the Word of God. Yeah. He will not back down. It does not matter who comes at him. He is going to stand there and put a fist right in your face, and he's going to preach Jesus whether you like it or not. Brother Barry Spears got one of the most powerful testimonies that I've ever heard in my life. Was a former Hell's Angel in the motorcycle gang, and now he's preaching the gospel. And just, I love how those guys, and Brother Barry, he'll implement his testimony into services and things. It is amazing. So that's just 4 of mine that I really, really love to listen to, and that's why I like to listen to them.
He didn't say me.
He's in there.
I didn't make the cut. Well, I was going to say, like, I have my guys too. I love to watch Billy Graham at his pinnacle. Like when he was younger. I don't know if you would have found a more passionate man. I like to watch Billy Graham because of his invitations. I struggle. It's probably the greatest flaw that I have, other than keeping the time. It's the greatest flaw that I'm not a great invitation giver. I feel like I lack in that area, so I watch men like him. Greg Laurie is another modern day Billy Graham. I mean, he is the best that comes. I enjoy the teaching of James McDonald. He's very bold. Very passionate, and then there's some guys at Fruitland that I could listen to anytime. I get excited when they're preaching. Robert Hefner, he doesn't have that excite element like that Sean's talking about, but the man is in love with the Word, and when you can tell that he's studied up. I used to love hearing Dr. Kenneth writings because he was the master of alliteration. The man could alliterate alliterated points. I mean, he was that good at breaking down a text. And even today, J.D. Grant, those are guys in my time that have impacted the way that I preach. Oh yeah, and of course, there's always the Toziers. You love to read the works of Spurgeon. I've heard that. I know that we weren't alive in Spurgeon's time, but that man, he was the prince of preachers. So you know that he was a powerful, powerful preacher. I enjoy Tony Evans. I like Tony Evans because he's black. I'll just tell you that. Mm-hmm. I love his soul. I love the fact that he's able to break down a text and he preaches it very well, and he's fun too. Mm-hmm. He's a lot of fun to listen to. He's the master of illustrations. So what I'm saying is, like, you've got people in your mind that you love to hear, and you know what? Chances are you're going to hear them preach and you're going to emulate some of the things that they do. It's bound to happen. But what I want you to get is that you have to commit to being yourself. There's only one Sean. There's only one me. There's not enough room for multiple of us. No. There's only one Billy Graham. So it's not fair to say this person is just like him. when you know that they're not. God made Billy Graham for the time that he was most effective. Billy Graham changed the way that churches did. He brought the crusade revivals to America. I mean, like, he mastered the art of an invitation. He brought hope when we didn't have a lot of hope in the country. He was at a very pivotal moment in our time, and it's the same thing with everybody else that we've mentioned. They've been used and they've been blessed. And you know what? I love that we like guys that are in different contexts. I also enjoy Clayton King. Clayton King is a great topical preacher too, but the more he grows, he's really good at expounding the text too. I'm just saying, you have guys that you love, but you need to be yourself. Commit to being yourself. Do your own work. Be your own self. Sean's his best when Sean is Sean, and you may not know what that means. I'll send you links of messages that he's preached, and you'll see. And you can always tell when you're not in your element, can't you? Same thing with me. When you're trying to do something like somebody else does, it's never the same. It's never going to be like they do it. All right, we got to move on because we got to go to the basketball game, and it's 40 minutes and 2 minutes. We must be committed to excellence. Colossians 3:23, Colossians 3:17, 1 Corinthians 9, 1 Corinthians 10:31. There's several references there in your notes. All of them are about glorifying Jesus. Every one of them. So commit to excellence means that I prepare a Wednesday night message the same as I would if I got an opportunity to preach in front of the big church for Sunday morning or Sunday night. You have to take advantage of those opportunities that way. Committing to excellence means I'm going to give them the best message that I can possibly give them, regardless of who shows up, regardless of the circumstances around it. I'm going to do the best to deliver, and that's an ongoing learning experience. Don't slack off. Don't slack off. Doesn't matter if it's Wednesday night or Sunday morning. Don't slack off. And the last thing is, we must be committed to glorifying God. That's what it's all about, anyways. That's what preaching the word is all about. It ain't about you, and it's certainly not about me. They don't need me to look cool or act cool. Remember, ministry is not about a person. Ministry is about a relationship with Christ and glorifying Christ to the utmost. I want to finish out today by just reading something that another student from a class shared with me. I can't remember what quarter it was, but I made sure to write it down. And I've tried to do this every quarter since. But the student said, there are students who do love Jesus, who do want to be close to him. You have to go get them. You have to make the most of your time with them. Do not waste it. That's in a nutshell what this lesson could be about. They have a craving for the word. They're there. You have an opportunity to feed them. They're there. Go and getting them may take you out of your comfort zone. Go and getting them means I show them the truth, and I pray that God would bring it out of me to them. I have to go get them in the sense that they need this word to live spiritually. But then committing to getting close to them because they want to be close to Him, and then making the most of your time. Don't waste it. Don't spend 45 minutes playing a game or shooting the breeze and spend 10 minutes studying the Word. You don't waste their time. It's precious time. Remember what Sean said at the beginning? He's like, you only get several hours a week if you have the most committed students. You get several hours a week. Chances are you're going to get less time than that. So I'm gonna commit to make the most of my time. One of our good friends, Brandon Blair, youth pastors, Fairview Baptist in Tennessee, near Knoxville, and Brandon did a youth revival for us a few years back. And I remember Sean spent some time with Brandon. Mm-hmm. And what did he tell you? What did you ask him?
I went back there, and Brandon started at a church, and they only had like 15 to 20 kids. And all of a sudden, he came here, and it had grown up to like 150 students. And I was like, man, I was big into numbers at that time. And I was like, man, I'm going to pick this guy's brain. I'm going to figure out exactly how he did it, and I'm going to try to emulate it here in Polk County, the smallest county in North Carolina. I'm going to emulate it. It's going to work. And so I was back there. We were standing at the back of the church. It was right before the revival. I said, hey, bud, if you got a minute, I got to ask you. how did you get from 15 to 20 students to 150? And he looked at me and said this one phrase: preach the gospel. Preach the gospel. He said, it ain't about fun and games. Preach the gospel. He said, I don't do activities and stuff like that. I have a full-on worship service, and that's exactly what he does. And so it changed the way I viewed youth ministry forever. It truly did. And now I'm seeing students actually have a hunger for the truth. They're getting fed the truth, and they're actually living out the truth every single day. And I am absolutely loving it, and I can't encourage you to do anything else but preach the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Yeah, just making the most of your time, loving the word, loving the kids. You will have fun doing it, and there will be plenty of time for you to do those events and things like that. We'll get into that later on in the quarter. I appreciate everybody sticking with us. To me, this is probably the best lesson that we've ever had since I've been doing the online class. Just make sure that you stay up to date with your projects. The projects are going to come in form of a paper. So if you'll look at your syllabus, it gives you the reason why we do it. We have to practice what we teach. In the past, I've done projects and people just turn in the projects. I would rather the projects come together and make one simple statement. And the statement is, do I believe that youth ministry is effective today or not? And you would have went to youth ministers, you have went to youth group, you would have interviewed students and parents. So they're going to tell you, and you're going to judge, your experiences are going to judge they're going to make your statement. Do I think it's important or not? So you're working on this paper, this project. Your paper is going to be due week 9. Remember, I'm not asking much. I think it's 5 to 7 pages. You'll be able to do that in no time, just based off of your findings. Do your work well with that. I really want to hear your heart on it. Your personal reflections this week are pretty engaging. I'm looking forward to reading what you write about the Tale of Three Kings. Next week we have a midterm. The midterm will be taken just like all the other quizzes have been. I'll upload the file for you to look at the midterm. You're going to edit it, and then you're going to submit it into the assignment form that I set up for week 5. All right. Hope everybody has a great week. Good to see you all. Sean, thank you again for joining us.
Yes, sir.
You may see him again before it's over with.
Hey, right. That'd be great.
All right. God bless you all.